Hello, friends, and welcome to the third episode of the Black Cloud Collective podcast. I am one of your hosts. I am Scott, aka Neon Demon, and joining me, as always, is Femi, the Arrow. How are
Hello there.
you?
Hello. Welcome. I'm good, man.
Yep.
We're currently recording this on a Sunday at 10 a.m., which is way earlier than
Don't I know it?
my usual. It's like I've never been up this early at this time, so but it's fine because we're getting to talk about some
Yeah,
good shit.
that's
What's going
true.
on
We have a
these
lot to talk
days?
about. It's not a great start to the morning, and I'll tell you why. As
Uh-oh.
we were like prepping for this, I literally went downstairs, made a coffee, and I thought, I'll drip in some honeycomb syrup, some of the fancy stuff. And I think I ended up putting a bit too much in. But on my way up, I realised I also used the wrong spoon.
What are you
Well, I
using a
didn't. I,
teaspoon?
I didn't use. I used the big spoon, and well, basically, with sugar and coffee, caffeine, I'll be hearing colours. I expect.
So you use a big spoon, which is a big mug,
Yeah, I think I
like a
did
big
because it's
place.
very strong.
Nice.
Yeah, well, I know I did.
That's a big cup. I mean, I'm looking at the size of
Oh,
the
it's a
mug.
massive
That's a
cup.
lot.
Yeah,
That's a lot.
I'm one of these. Like my family have told me so many times over the years that the drink is only as good as the cup. And I've literally had to listen to my uncle talk for years about the perfect cup, how some coffees taste better. He's a coffee aficionado like myself, and I've been chasing that perfect cup. I know it sounds stupid because you don't drink coffee or tea, so this would sound really strange to you. But there's people out there like you would not drink coffee in a teacup. You would not do that. It's unheard of. Like you would not make
It it
tea.
would be it would be hilarious though, but
You'd
I have seen
probably
some
annoy a lot of
teacups.
people.
I mean, are we talking like Victorian teacups, like proper teacup sets for like
Teacups,
the ones with the
which yeah.
saucer
So
and
yeah,
then
yeah, they're
yeah,
like because
okay.
they're like really thin, aren't they? And yeah,
Yeah.
where this is a big chunky boy because you take your time with coffee. You don't mess about. You savor every moment.
I just think coffee is disgusting anyway, so it's
You
fine.
just haven't had the right coffee. That
It's like how they
that's
say beer is tasty, and the people say no, you just haven't had the right beer. It's disgusting. Whatever beer it is, whether it's
yeah.
made from your nan's old recipe, it's disgusting. I
I was wondering where you
it's
was going with
disgusting.
that. All right. Well, let's move on anyway, because we'll be here all day if we continue on with these bloody tangents. So, I want to start this week by talking about Jim Ryan. Now, if you don't know who that is the current president and CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment. So he's been heading up the PlayStation since 2018. So this is a guy who pretty much inherited the absolute monster that was the PS4 generation, which, as we all know,
Huge,
was
huge.
probably one of they were like from the get go. Basically, they were on a roll. They had Microsoft really mess up their introduction of the Xbox One and the always online interactivity, the
That was
Kinect
silly.
camera. Oh, I haven't thought about that in a while
That
either.
was really silly.
I love the Connect. I absolutely. We both used the Connect a fair bit, didn't we? Well, I know I did.
I mean, my Connect was like the thing that I used to stream. Like my first streaming started from
Really?
the Xbox, and it was with the Xbox and Connect. Yeah.
Oh,
So I started
did
streaming
I?
through the Xbox. Um,
Oh,
yeah.
that's right. That's right.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah. I mostly used it to press pause and press play on my phone. In fact, I've got one small
that's
tangent,
true.
and I love telling this story because it's something that I really miss from that era. So, Alien Isolation, another absolute cracking game from Creative
Great game.
Assembly. They had a Connect integration. When you start a game, you get all these prompts saying blah blah blah, and I thought they were like epilepsy warnings and whatever. Turns out it was vital information that I missed. And I'll tell you why. I was really struggling with the game, and I was wondering like, why does this alien keep finding me? I was getting stressed out. I was hiding in lockers. I was hiding under stuff. I was like, how does he keep finding me? So when I'm being chased, I'm like muttering to myself, like, fuck, 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 run, run, run.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so it turns out the Kinect was hearing me make those mutters. So that told the alien exactly where I was
Oh wow.
every single time. And it wasn't until I must have died like 4 or 5 times and I got like a pity warning on screen. Remember,
Wait,
the
did this?
Kinect can hear you. I was like, you're joking me. After how
That
many
is such a
bloody hours?
very good feature, though. I
Oh,
actually
it's
like that.
fantastic.
I think that's a really good way of using the Kinect.
Yeah,
Give you
I
that immersive sort of experience.
yeah. You know, and that was like one of my highlights. I can't remember any other games that used it, but yeah, just going back to Sony. I mean, that was the generation that Xbox flopped, and even to this day, they're still playing catch up. So like Jim Ryan kind of inherited an absolute monster.
Mm,
But after doing a little bit of research, he has been with the company for like over 30 years. That's pretty much like he was a
that's
lifer for, well, until recently. But the reason why he's leaving, well, to be honest, it's been a bit weird. The way it was, with the way everyone said, like, you know, that this guy's leaving. At first, he was like, you saw the headlines, he was stepping down, and then
right.
later on, you found out that he was retiring. I mean, this is a guy who famously pivoted from the vision of the PS4 era, where, you know, PS4 era is known for these absolute banging video games. I mean, God of War is obviously in there. The Last of Us, these very story narrative games. Now, it came
Yeah.
as a bit of a surprise when Jim Ryan came in, and he pivoted hard to games as a service. Now, I don't know about you, but I think that's probably the first red flag, because not many games as a service tend to live longer than a couple of years. I mean, the only one, I think they've looked at how much money Bungie is making, and they've like, I want a piece of that cake. And it's a lot. Like, there's so many games as a service that just flop. I mean, we've just had
Yeah.
Hyenas just been cancelled by Sega, who, you know, incidentally, was also made by Creative Assembly, and they've absolutely gutted that team. They've pretty much let them go, but it's, yeah. I mean, and I can't help but wonder, like, is that maybe a reason why he's decided to leave, or is it, as they say, he's retiring? I'll read this out. Just get a better understanding of how it was presented. Ryan's tenure at Sony spans nearly 30 years, during which he's held numerous leadership roles, including serving as head of the Sony Europe after former SIEE president Andrew House passed the torch in 2011. He's on record, Jim Ryan's on record, I found it increasingly difficult to reconcile living in Europe and working
Right.
in North America. So this is the same guy that flew all over the country to try and block the Microsoft XBK deal. I didn't know that he was living, he's living in the UK.
Yeah.
He's from Newcastle, like one of our friends.
Johnny.
And yeah, I mean, he's getting a bit, so it makes sense. I wouldn't like to travel that much. Imagine, you know, living in the UK and spending
Plus
weeks at a time in
working.
North America.
Yeah. But imagine like because you have counterparts right in NA, and the
Yeah,
time difference is pretty huge, right?
and
So
yeah,
yeah.
as someone of his age, I don't know if he's in his 50s or his 60s. I would not like to hazard a guess.
Mm.
So you know, for that point, I can sympathise after wanting
Yeah,
to
it makes
retire. I'm
sense
sure this guy's made his millions at this point.
for sure.
So, you know, I'm sure he could have retired a long time ago, but he wouldn't have been at PlayStation long enough to see the fruits of his labour, because all these games, he promised 10 games as a service by what, 2030, and
Yeah.
you know, we know, and we don't know if they're like first party or just exclusive. I know, like, Square Enix are making Foam Stars at the moment,
Yeah.
and they've obviously acquired Bungie, and I don't know if you know this, but Last of Us they've been working on a multiplayer game called Factions for the past few years. Are you familiar with this?
Yeah, I've heard of it. No, I don't know much about it,
No.
but I have heard of the
Well,
game.
I'll just briefly touch on it because it is quite interesting. Basically, it's designed as a multiplayer game. I think the first Last of Us had a multiplayer which inspired the Factions.
Mm-hmm.
and that was recently put on ice. This was
Mm,
after Bungie pretty much went in and said, "No, this doesn't work."
yeah.
I didn't know Bungie had that much weight to be able to do that, but I guess the leadership must have agreed. Like, well, you kind of have to listen to Bungie because they're the only ones who've made games as a service pretty much work. I mean, I don't, outside of Warframe, maybe thinking about it, but they're one of the few who've made it work.
Mm,
But Jim Ryan's staying with the company until March next year, and effective as of April 1st, 2024, the president of the Sony Group Corporation, Hiroki Totoki, will step in as SIE's interim CEO. So this is a
okay.
guy from Sony, no PlayStation experience. This is a guy who loves his mobile games. So I hope he's not there long enough to make any drastic changes. Although that is an
So are
area
they?
that Sony wants to get into. So
But are they looking to? So he's gonna be the interim CEO.
interim, yeah.
Okay. So
So
the way the reporting line is structured, I don't know. Does he currently report into this individual right now? I imagine, or
I think yeah. What
is
you're about
he?
Jim
Yeah.
Ryan
Okay.
reporting to him?
Jim Ryan. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Would Jim
yeah.
Ryan report into?
I think that's
I
how the
can't. Yeah.
organisation chart works.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
not sure, but like because he is from the Sony side and Jim Ryan's always been with the Sony Interactive side.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that was a massive a massive blow in
It's really
terms
huge,
of
though.
the repercussions of that because you a new CEO means a new vision.
Sure.
And like I said before, like at the start of this, I can't help but wonder if there was multiple reasons for him retiring. I mean, I didn't really agree with majority of the things that Jim Ryan put out in his tenure since 2018. This is the guy who believes in generations, wanted to separate the PS4 games from the PS5, and then ultimately went back on that, and now it's basically remaster after remaster. Did you know it was leaked that Last of Us 2 is getting a remaster, which hasn't even been out, what, 2 years? It's past a joke at this point. And I can't think, like, they've only got one
Is he only
first
two
point.
years?
I think so. I mean,
Okay.
maybe
I
it
I mean,
hasn't
for
been
you
that
guys.
long.
Okay. Look, I don't have a PlayStation, and I know the point you're about to make that they haven't made a
2020.
as of late. You can't. Yeah. 20. Okay. Wow. That is really 2020.
Yeah, I know, a remaster. That's the point. Like they keep doing this. Like the first
That
Last of Us had a
is.
remaster and then a
First one
remake.
I understand because Last of Us, the first one came out a little bit much older than that, right? Like that's probably like
PS
five
end
or
of
six years ago.
PS3.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. So that I'm okay with. But a game that came out 2, 3 years ago, we've not taken that much of a. I mean, technology has advanced, of course, but I don't know what they will be remastering exactly because the graphics will still look good. I mean, yes, you
Yeah, it
might be able
already
to
looks amazing.
make. Yeah, it already looks like. So I don't. But anyway, I was gonna say that just in general, I don't have a PlayStation, so I'm a little bit torn about this because for me, if they're making a remaster of these games, it means that it allows, especially now that they are porting some of their games now to, to PC, to Steam, it means that I will have access to
Yeah.
these games. And when I do have my PlayStation, it means that I would have access to those games, but on a much higher fidelity and, all the other improvements they make to remasters and whatnot. So from that perspective, I'm not against it. But for someone that already has a PlayStation, which I imagine goes to your point they're about to make, is like, okay, remasters are cool, but what about new stuff?
I think there has to be a balance, and there hasn't been a balance for PlayStation 5 this
Mm,
generation. Because there've been very little first party games. We've got Spider Man 2 coming out in a couple of weeks.
that is, I mean, that's huge. That's
That
really
that
huge.
that's huge. But this isn't like I said. This isn't the Sony of last generation where they're literally firing on
It's
all
true.
cylinders. I don't want games as a service. Like I don't want 10 in the next 10 years.
Sure.
It just seems like I get it from your perspective because you've not had a PlayStation, whereas the way I'm coming at it is that some games deserve a remaster. The Last of Us
Yeah,
2, it's too soon. It doesn't. It still
it
holds up. It's
literally.
still one of the prettiest games right now.
I agree with that, hundred
Yeah,
percent.
like you know, I was if I was in charge of if I had Jim Ryan's job, I'd be looking at Killzone for a remaster. Heck no, a remake. It's old
Oh
enough.
my god,
PlayStation
Killzone
2, the
is
first
sick,
Killzone,
man.
and I loved.
Yo,
I bought a
Killzone
PS3 for Killzone 2.
is sick. Hmm?
Like they want an answer for
Killzone,
Call of Duty, there's your answer right there. Or SOCOM, that was an army shooter. That was a great game.
that was good.
And
That was good.
but instead that they're just using they're using the same games that I've had on the PS3, sorry PS4. They a year later they bring out an Ultimate Edition and they port it to PC, charging the same price. And I don't like the way they I
That
don't like
business
that.
model.
No,
Yeah.
exactly the business model. I think you look at Xbox. It's Xbox, it's console and PC day and dates. And more like the first party games. If you buy what on one platform, you get it on the PC as well. It's very consumer friendly. Look, when you've had that for so long, and you see what PlayStation's doing, who have
Yeah.
recently increased their subscription under Jim Ryan. They've increased the cost of video games £70. They've increased so the subscription went up like by $30 across the board pretty much. And then
They
they
did
increased
announce
the
that.
cost of the
Yeah.
consoles, which has never happened before. Um, and I can't help but look back at Jim Ryan's tenure and think, did he really do anything good for PlayStation? And I say that from the perspective of a customer because I know from Sony's perspective, he's made them a lot of money. And I've from what I understand, he's done very well for the company, but I think it's at the expense of the consumer. Is the way I see it.
Do you think that's a very? Because I know you're talking from your experience, which is valid, right? From what
Mm,
you've experienced as a PlayStation owner and a PlayStation customer. But I wonder. I'm actually curious to know, and it would be very very interesting. Maybe for those of you that are watching it that have a PlayStation, let us know in the comments. Just your experience of this era so far. Do you think it's been great for you guys? Do you think it's been you know you've enjoyed the services, all of those things, or do you think pretty much like it's not been good? Because
mm,
i I do understand a lot of what you're saying, and just thinking back, and I think we had this conversation before us. It's about what PlayStation used to be for me when I had a PlayStation 3 was like that was the console that brought you all of those big first party games, like story based games. And Xbox was to me was like all of the multiplayer games, the Call of Duties, all of that. Like PlayStation was always known for its story content, big
mm.
blockbuster adventures that you like, okay, this is exactly why you have a PlayStation, for those single player games. That's what it was to me at the time.
Yeah.
And I wonder, based on what you're saying now, it doesn't feel like that's the same ethos that has been driving PlayStation
Mm.
from your experience so far, anyway.
Yeah, and I think you've hit the nail on the head. Really, it's from my experience, like to me, PlayStation has always been a secondary console. Um, purely, and I think Game Pass has a lot to do with that. But like,
Mm.
I've literally just looked at the PlayStation 4 titles. We've had the Last of Us. The first Last of Us remaster was on
Yeah.
PS4. With the
Yeah.
Last of Us Part Two, Bloodborne, God of War, Until Dawn, Street Fighter Five, Horizon Zero Dawn 1 and 2, Ghost of Tsushima,
Sushi. Ghost of Sushi.
Death Stranding. Um,
That's a pretty
he's a and the list
pretty
literally goes on.
a pretty solid lineup, though. I mean, I'm just saying I know
Yeah,
what I said earlier, but again, uh, that's a pretty solid lineup of games.
this is PS4. Like,
Okay. I'm wearing PS5.
I see what you're confused because they are eventually slowly porting them to PC.
PS.
So they're all.
So
I see like they're all mostly new for you.
that's actually true because then it's like, okay, what is the new thing for the PS5 generation then?
Exactly, and I know COVID has had a lot to do with it. I get that, and it's the same on the Xbox side. But if you see what Xbox is churning out, has been churning out past couple of years, you know they're firing on all cylinders right now. They've had a great couple of weeks with Game Pass. But I'm struggling. Like Spider-Man 2, they've just had Grand Theft Auto 7 come out.
7.
7 Grand Theft, not Grand Theft Auto, Gran Turismo.
I was
Gran Turismo. Hey man,
I was like, what
only
happened to
5 sips into
6?
my coffee.
No, so GT7. Okay, so GT7, Gran
GT7, yeah,
Turismo. Yeah, Gran Turismo. That's a staple anyway. That's always, yeah.
yeah, and
So are we
I'm
saying that? So wait, are we saying there isn't any? I mean, what is the PS5 lineup then?
well, we know Wolverine is coming from Insomniac. That's looking to be like a 2025, 2026 game.
Okay.
We do have the part two of Final Fantasy VII remake.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Fair Games. I don't know if you remember that from the showcase. It's been I can't remember her name, but it's the new studio that was created by the lady who created Assassin's Creed, and I can't for the life of me remember her
Oh, I can
name.
remember.
But
Yeah.
it's basically they've not even made a game yet, and Sony bought their studio. We saw a trailer, like a CG trailer. It was very colourful. I'm just gonna quickly have a look at what that name
I
was. I
I
can't
mean,
remember her name.
okay. So what we're saying is that, okay, looking back, because he was part of the PS4 era. Yes,
Yeah,
that's so. I know that for the PS5, maybe perhaps we've not seen the amount of games come out as much as the PS4 because again, all of the situations that, like you mentioned, COVID and all of that, and maybe some other factors that we don't know. But he was still part of that PS4 era, which had some really good, solid lineup of games.
Andrew House was CEO during the PS4 era. Jim Ryan came in towards the end of that, too late to make any real difference to that generation. So I
Okay.
don't think we can
Okay.
give him credit. I mean, the only he was responsible for. Oh, I shouldn't probably guess, but I know he had a lot to do with the success in Europe.
So okay.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, it's because of what he's come out with over the years and the fact that he is transitioning to games as a service. We've not had any decent state of plays, and I say decent in the terms of they have a very high bar, and they've not been able to reach the highs in Jim Ryan's tenure. If I'm being frank, I mean, there are a few games that are coming, you know, but it's as it is with Sony marketing. You don't know what's when watching them, you don't know what's exclusive and what's not because they seem to hide that
Yeah.
fact quite well. You know, we've got a few games that we know are coming to Xbox, but for me that is literally it. Outside of Wolverine, Fair Games, Spider-Man 2, like I feel like we should know more, especially now that E3 season has come and gone. We know what Xbox is doing for the next 10 years. I mean, we know mostly what Bethesda's doing after that giant leak. So I just look at Sony now compared to how it was last generation and think
Mm.
it's a bit of a far cry from what you were once known as. And it makes me a little bit sad, really, because I've always enjoyed their games. As I said, it's never been my primary console, but when I've seen it, like God of War, like you've not finished that yet, have you?
No, I haven't finished that.
No,
No.
was probably one of the best games of last generation, if not the best. And I just want I expect more from PlayStation. They're not quite delivering, and if they're going to deliver these games as service games, which are known to flop quite quickly, it I just don't like where they're heading really, and I do hope that whoever takes over from Jim Ryan in March will have a different vision. What that vision is, I don't know. I mean,
So I
who out
guess,
there is
yeah.
no? Go on. No, you go.
No, no. I was actually gonna. I think, given where you're going, I was gonna ask the question that, okay, we know there's gonna be an interim CEO, right? Just till they find someone. So
Yeah,
now going to your question, which I think you're about to ask, is who's out there right now,
yeah.
or maybe not even the people that are available, but people that, even if they're not available, could potentially make that switch, or that, like, say, hey, you know what, I've done my time here. This looks like a very interesting challenge. Who do you sort of see from your perspective coming in and maybe making that change that you imagine?
I think that is the million-dollar question, and traditionally they've always promoted someone in house.
Okay.
I think I don't know
It's always
who
been a
that would be.
promotion.
I think I don't think. I mean, if they did promote in house, it would have to be Herman Hulst. This is the head of PlayStation Studios. He's been with the company as long as I can remember, and I think he would be the easy choice to take on that responsibility. But at the same time, the way PlayStation is now, you can't help but wonder if he needs more of a drastic change, someone with experience to reorientate the ship, as it were. I know.
But the question is, and I think that's who wants this change from your perspective, because, like you said, right, he has
Yeah.
brought a lot of money to the organization, right? And at the end of the day, it's a business, yeah. So would the higher up say, oh, you know what? Yes, we would like to see a bit of a change. Or like, no, we are getting exactly what we want,
Hmm.
which is the bottom line. Why hire someone to drastically change that, or maybe switch it up? But that's the thing. Just to clarify, from your
I think.
perspective, I guess that's the point.
I mean, I like to think that Sony is smart enough to realise that the success they've had last generation is due to the video games. This generation, they are burning goodwill by increasing the cost of their subscription services. Video games, I get it. You know, they've not had an increase in price in probably over a decade. But
Yeah.
at the same time, on the other side of that coin, they've also introduced microtransactions and exploited the shit out of their customer base. So I think that kind of evens out, which is why I don't consider that. But like the fact that they've raised the price of the consoles, which no company has ever done in the history of consoles, to my knowledge,
Yeah.
but by 30% across the board for their subscriptions, like that's ridiculous. That is too much. And I just think they're burning goodwill, and I want them to bring out these games. They used to bring out some absolutely wicked indie games.
That's true.
Jim Ryan's on record on saying that AAA games are the future of PlayStation, and that nobody plays old games, which which absolutely bombastic statements. Probably the first time I've ever used that word, but
Bombastic. So, I've never.
you don't hear a lot of bombastic these days, do
No
you?
one.
I
There's
should try
only
and
a
bring that
meme about
back.
someone's. There's only like a meme about someone, a clip about someone saying that particular phrase. But yeah, it's not a common word used on your
No, no, I don't
daily
know where that came from.
conversations.
Probably the depths of my brain.
Very
But
passionate.
I
Yes.
just think we need. I think I like to think they're smart enough to go back, and I think I don't know. It's a tinfoil hat theory that that's why he's stepping down slash retiring. You're by the sound of it, you don't really agree with that.
I mean, it's like, how are they measuring success? How would they measure success? They measure
Oh,
it from,
money, revenue.
there you go, there you go, and it's like, hey, yes, you're doing things that, from a customer perspective, is not like your perspective is
Mm,
not great, right? It's a bit rubbish. You're burning like the vision, the spirit that you've always associated Sony with.
yeah,
But when they look at, the accounting table, the profit and loss column, and they tally it up and they see, well, we are making not just revenue, but we're making profits as well. So it's like, well, we can either keep doing this or we can risk it so that we can still. I'm just
yeah,
speaking
yeah.
again. By
No,
the
go
way,
on.
I'm I'm not saying what they're doing is. I am all about, look. They can always You can always strike a balance, right?
Mm,
You can always strike a balance between putting out great content, but also a great product, but also making money. At the end of the day, it's a business. You need to make
yeah,
money. You need to pay people, right? Otherwise, you have people getting laid off, which we don't want. Um, so, but like I said, that's the thing. Like when they look at it, when they're thinking about their next successor, and it's okay, these are the metrics by which we are evaluating what we want in terms of this particular division, Sony
mm,
Entertainment, to make X amount of money or X amount of revenue over X amount of years. And he has been doing this. So do we want someone to come in and steer the ship in the same direction? Or perhaps maybe something isn't working. Maybe I don't know. But I think that's the thing though. Like, how are they looking at, what do they want? What are they
yeah.
trying to find in terms of that next person? If it's someone to keep the ship float, keep in the same direction because there's been a lot of great metrics, then that's probably who they're gonna get. Or it could be
I
someone entirely
agree.
different.
I agree to a point where if they can't keep the way they're going because they're not releasing any games this year, I don't know what PlayStation games have come out this year. To be honest, exclusive that aren't, first party games. I mean, I know we've had Final Fantasy 16, 17.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I just I don't agree with that. They can look at the metrics and say this is what we, yeah, money's high, but don't forget that PlayStation 4 was an absolute beast and the momentum of that is still heading up. People have got their digital libraries on there, and it's moving up because of that momentum, despite the fact that there's been very little games. All these negative features, in terms of the subscription costs going up, way up, offering very little in return. Now we have not really seen the fruit of their labour in terms of games as a service. So what? I mean, I don't know. Maybe you're right, but
No,
it doesn't. It doesn't
I
sit with me because there's no games to talk about, and that's the crux of it. At the end of the day, there's
hundred
no
percent.
there's no games. Yes, Spider-Man 2 will probably do very well.
I'll be
It doesn't seem
surprised
like
if
a
it
big
doesn't.
departure from the previous games, which is fine.
Yeah,
But like after that, Wolverine. I mean, and Insomniac have been carrying PlayStation on their back for the past couple of years.
I do agree. From what you're saying, there's definitely a lack of actual products or actual like
Yeah,
games, like you know,
and the only thing they seem to be doing right now is just remasters and remakes, and then porting it to PC. Albeit most of their
nostalgia is a
ports have
beast,
been.
mate.
Sorry.
Nostalgia is a beast. Like,
Yeah, yeah, it is. But like when the game came out like 2 years prior, that's not nostalgia. That's like, oh, do I fancy? I like Last of Us One remake. They try to time that with the release of the TV show, which didn't quite work out because when it dropped, it was probably the buggiest game they've ever made, which is
yeah,
very unlike PlayStation.
I heard about it. Even the PC ports
Yeah,
was
that's what I'm referring
pretty
to is
bad.
the PC
That's
port.
referred. Okay, okay, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and before that was Days Gone, which didn't do well on PC because of the bugs. But I like to. I mean, let's transition to what we want from whoever fills the shoes of the CEO. If it was me, I would like PlayStation to have PC ports day and date. I would want a bigger presence on PC. It's obvious that they are not making enough money from console. You've seen
Is
Xbox.
it though? Is it obvious, or is
No,
it
they've said
more?
so. That's not
Have
my
they said?
opinion. They've said
Okay,
so themselves. This is Jim Ryan.
okay, okay.
That was his first initiative because I don't know if you remember before before they started doing PC ports, the fan base was like, we want our games on PlayStation only. There was a lot of uproar on social media, across all social media, about even across like news outlets like IGN, GameSpot, Games Radar. They were not happy with the thoughts of PlayStation putting their games on PC.
It's
They
such a
scream
weird.
like
That's such a weird thinking, though. Like that makes
right.
no. I don't understand. That makes no sense.
I want to
Like
send you a
why?
video of a fanboy. It's hilarious because this guy has an absolute meltdown. He threatens to break his PlayStation and everything, and it's so stupid. But unfortunately, that's a thing.
You know what? You know what? I shouldn't even. I shouldn't even be surprised because again, people are passionate about what they love. Like think about it, right? Football fans or sports fans, the same thing. They are
Yeah,
passionate
same
about their
energy.
sports team,
Yeah,
same energy. So I understand it, but it's just I think we're just different. For me, it's like
yeah.
why
I
not?
think
You
I
know,
think the way I looked at it was that this fan base have been treated very very well for a very long time. They've had all the exclusives. They've had a lot of third party exclusive. They've had exclusive content first on PlayStation. They've been treated very well, and that's coming to an end because they made as much money as they could on PlayStation. The metrics are out there. They've been very public with their numbers until recently, actually. So I wonder if that's a change because they used to
I
publish their numbers every month, and they've stopped doing that.
but like I'm just again. It's like yes, you're being like that's not changing. You're still going to get those games. You're still going to get this. I mean, they might be like okay, this skin might be first exclusive to consoles only, but you're still getting the game. Like you're not missing out. So I don't understand.
Yes, I don't understand it either.
It
I think
doesn't.
it's my PlayStation scenario. They don't share well with others. They've
That's
been
that's what it is. Literally
yeah.
overgrown babies. Even
Yeah,
babies act better. Actually, I should no. Let's not even put that on babies. Just no. Never mind.
honestly, it's a very silly thing, and it has been like tribal between Xbox players has been going on for a long time. I mean, even before that, it used to be what Nintendo and Sega, didn't it, back in the day?
True. Back in the days, yeah.
And I don't know. I just beyond that, they need a presence in mobile. I don't I don't care for mobile games, but that seems to be everything that keeps companies
Makes a lot of
afloat.
money.
It was
Makes a lot of money.
one of the reasons why Microsoft bought ABK was for King.
True.
And, that'll be funding that game alone will be funding many studios for years to come, along with Call of Duty. Coincidentally, another news piece as well. It looks like the CMA is looking to approve, excuse me, the ABK deal next week, which would be
Ooh.
the week starting 9th of October. So
You might see more catalog being on Game Pass as soon
I'm
as that
looking,
approves.
yes, exactly, and I would love for like all the Call of Duty games to just jump
Mate,
straight onto
Black Ops.
console.
I'm on that, mate. I'm on that.
Yeah,
I'm on
yeah.
that.
So now that now the server's been fixed, like we can jump back in and relive the glory days. At least until the rose tinted glasses come off and realize how ugly these games are now, which keeps happening, by the way.
It's fine. It's fine. We enjoy the nostalgia till we realize that. Although I did play. I mean, I do have Black Ops,
Yeah,
which I did play. It still looks good. Still runs perfectly fine.
yeah. I
Still
mean,
plays as
we
I
were
imagined.
well, that was 360 generation, was it? PS3 generation,
Yes.
if I'm not mistaken. I mean,
Yes. Yeah.
we were just
Yeah.
playing Gears of War last night, weren't we? Albeit it was the
And
Ultimate
it holds
Edition,
up.
and that
Yeah. Oh,
holds
that's
up.
true. That's true.
It
That's
won't be
true.
until we get to Gears of War 2 that we'll probably be like, oh, this game hasn't aged very well, because
This is where we
that's a
skip. We
backwards
just be like,
compat.
let's just do guest three instead. That's fine. That's fine.
I mean,
I yeah. Go on.
no, I'm just saying, like, I do appreciate older games, and I am looking forward to playing these. The first game I bought for my 360 was Call of Duty 2. I absolutely adored that game, and I
Yeah.
cannot wait. I have been seeing that Call of Duty game's been on sale for months now, on and off, and I was like, no, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait. These games will come to Game Pass. I'll save myself some money, and I'll be able to relive the glory days. I'm patient. It's starting to struggle a bit now, but we're towards the end of it.
You can make it. Come on. Hold on.
Yeah,
Hold on. But that's the thing. Like that's what I'm saying. Like nostalgia sells hard. So just going back to what we're talking about,
yeah.
it's. I know it's not. Yeah, it shouldn't be the only thing you're doing. So again, going to the who, from your perspective, who do you like? Who would that be like? Besides the person you mentioned, Andrew, was it Andrew
Well,
House?
no,
Was it
Andrew House was the predecessor
in
to Jim Ryan.
no, sorry, Andrew House. Jim, what's his name? The one that's currently
Jim
the head
Ryan.
of Jim. Okay, no, not him. No, not him. The person that is under Jim Ryan that could be promoted to sort
Oh,
of
Herman
lead the
Holst.
entire. Thank you, Herman Holtz. I was like, it's not yet.
Yeah, head of
Um,
PlayStation Studios.
thank you. So who will be the other like outside of
Outside
Sony?
of
Yeah, outside.
Sony.
Who would?
Like, if it was me who got to choose, I would choose Peter Moore. Now, a lot of Xbox fans will probably know who that is. He was the head of Xbox during the 360. Now, this guy, he,
Great.
he came in, and absolutely did so many great things with Xbox. For him, we've got he spearheaded majority of the first party games, Gears of War. I've not looked into his background to be honest that much, but I know he was responsible for. I don't know if you remember this, the Red Rings of Death for the 360.
Of- May
Yeah.
even people that didn't have Xbox knew what that was.
So he was in charge during that whole thing.
Yeah,
I think it's because of him that Xbox survived that. He went straight
it was
to Bill Gates and says this is going to cost us $1.15 billion to rectify.
it's amazing.
And Bill Gates said yes, that's a lot of bloody money, and they replaced every single red ring of death that occurred over that generation. He's had a
I
lot
mean,
of
if you think about the consequences, right? Of if they hadn't done that, I don't think we'll be talking about Xbox like that.
no, 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 no. That would have
Uh,
been the death of Xbox.
that would have been, yeah, literally. So I think that decision was more of like we need to do this if we want to have Xbox as a thing. But no, I 100% agree with the way that was managed, and again, that's from his leadership, right? So yeah,
Yeah, and this PMO is a guy who pretty much turned everything to gold. Everything he touched turned to gold. He had
Midas
so much
touch.
success with Xbox. I think, I mean, I say we. Xbox dominated that generation because of.
We
I think I might have just let slip my allegiance there a little bit, but
I was actually on the board of trustees when this whole thing happened.
oh
So
really,
me and good
really.
old Billy, I'm playing you in this part of we apparently, which I didn't know. Yes. So
I can't help but see it from I always because like I said, Xbox is my console, my primary console. I see it through the lens of that really. Which is probably why I'm so critical of PlayStation, but I'm also equally critical of Xbox because that's my home platform, and I want to see PlayStation. I don't care about their sales. I don't care about how successful they are, how much money they come in. All I care about is the output of games, and I think Peter Moore would be the perfect person to disrupt to reorientate the ship. Really, I mean, this I don't know if you know this, but he was the Sega boss who put out the Dreamcast.
really,
Yeah, yeah, and
that's the one console I didn't own, no played on. 'Cause
really.
I just never had access to it. No.
Oh mate, I think it would be very different today if that thing succeeded. It was a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous console, gorgeous control pad. My brother had it way
Oh,
after it died a death. But I think what was it? Sonic. It was a Sonic game, Sonic Adventure, I believe. Crazy Taxi. I think there's a Wave Race games, and these games are like.
mm.
I was so jealous of my brother when he had this thing. But then he left Xbox to work for EA. He became an EAA. He became an executive at EA.
Yeah.
He was there for I think 8 years, and he left it in probably the best state EA has ever been. During that tenure, EA was voted the worst company in America. I don't know if you knew that, which is insane to me. I think they had a lot that. Well, he said so
The
himself. He
worst
believed
company,
the worst
the worst
company
company. Okay.
next to oil companies spilling oil into the bloody ocean. It's ridiculous. I know that, and I
Imagine.
think
Can you
this
imagine?
this was a turning point for
Yeah.
EA because he set up a council and said we need to address this. A lot of that, I believe, had to do with the ending of Mass Effect 3. That's his words. I don't know if you people were not happy with the ending of Mass Effect 3. It got so bad that the two heads of BioWare retired basically. But that's a whole another story. Basically,
It
he
just tells
turned
you
that
that
around.
it tells you that we have the power, guys. We have the power. We just need to. I just shows like when gamers don't like something, we can make a lot of noise.
Yes, yes, we can.
Like
Especially if we come together
chemical.
and not.
If we come together, that's just we just gotta
And it worked. I mean, we've got proof of that working with Battlefront 2, where EA tried to sneak in pay to win practices, which ended up costing them a lot of money to fix. But back to Peter Moore, he then went on to purchase the Liverpool Football Club, his hometown, his dream job. I think it will take a lot for for him to leave that job and take on PlayStation because again that's a lot of traveling. That's he may not even have the interest, but
want
can't help
to do it. Yeah.
but wonder that he would be the shot in the arm that PlayStation needs right now. And I say need very loosely because they don't need to do anything. They can steer this course, keep on this course, and still make a ton of money. But I think that would be very detrimental to the brand if they're releasing like very little content really.
Yeah, but that's also the thing, though. I think with someone like him, he comes with that cachet, with that like, look what I've done, with that like
Yeah.
wealth of experience. Like, look, I've gone to companies, different game companies, and I've done all of this. So, like you said, Sony might want someone to say, look, we just want you to just stick to this plan, and for someone to come in and be like, okay, the plan is cool, but we can probably do version 2 of that is better. You're gonna have to find someone that has that amount of cachet, that has the amount of reputation to say, look, I know what I'm doing. I've turned things around in a way that not only profits the business but also
Mm,
provides a good sort of perception about the company as well. Because
yeah.
if you're feeling like this about Sony, there definitely will be people that feel the same way that you feel for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
The sentiment is definitely shared online. Outside of the fanboy wars,
yeah, yeah.
it's definitely a sentiment shared. And I think normally I wouldn't actually, because it's been my secondary console, I do miss those first party experiences. When I bought my PS5, I got the remake of Demon Souls. And I just don't want it to be a remake machine, really. I want new experiences. But it just seems to be like their games are so big right now. They cost so much money. They're not really willing to. I mean, that's the state of the industry. That's not just PlayStation. I want
Just in
them
general,
to.
yeah.
I want more unique experiences from PlayStation, not the same run of the mill walking simulators. As good as they are, I want them to. I mean, heck, I miss what is it?
Did you just call out Death Stranding like that? Did you just literally take a shot at Death Stranding just casually?
That fits perfectly into the box I just created because that is basically a delivery game, and I I love Kojima.
Uh,
He is exactly he fits my point specifically because he had a lot of weirdness to his video games outside of that game. Death Stranding 2, sorry, that's a PlayStation exclusive. That's coming at some point. I don't know. It's a very nuanced topic. I don't know what I
mm,
want from PlayStation. I don't know exactly what I want from PlayStation. I just want them to just output more unique games. Games are costing more and more and more to make. Are we still when with the leaked documents from the Xbox FTC ABK case? We saw how much revenue each company's making. Xbox is making more revenue than Nintendo, and I don't know if they're making no, that's not Nintendo, PlayStation, and that and
right.
that and that like the difference being is that the operating costs for PlayStation is much higher than Xbox and Nintendo combined.
Hmm.
And that just goes to show how much money it costs to make these games.
So do you think that's the reason why they are pivoting now to just say, hey, look, we already have gold. Let's just put a new foil on it and then repackage and then ship it off. So that way we don't have to. Because is
Probably,
that
but that's all they're doing right now.
hmm. But that's
Um,
interesting that they have a much higher. I mean, I would love to get like more details about that as to what. It's interesting though, just the fact that they have more operating costs than that of.
yeah, they have when ABK closes, they would have the same amount of studios, or roughly the same amount of studios as PlayStation.
Aha. Okay. Okay. Because
So
that was going to be my next point in terms of how many studios does Sony have versus Microsoft versus Xbox
I don't
or
know
Microsoft
the
Studios. Yeah.
exact amount.
But no, that makes sense. If it's a case where they have so many studios under them and affiliated studios, which maybe in some capacity that adds into the. But no,
Hmm.
either way, it could be the reason why they're saying, hey, maybe we shift a bit more into this model because we
Yeah.
don't know what the strategy is. It could be purely for cost purposes, that as well to say let's leverage our existing products and then still be able to at least keep some of our costs down
Hmm.
relatively. But no, it's interesting. Just think about it, right?
To round things off, then, Jim Ryan is won't be with us for much longer. He's with us until March. I can't imagine he's making any drastic moves during that time. We do have the PlayStation Portal device, the streaming only device handheld that's coming out. I think beyond that, I don't think outside of Spider-Man 2 we'll see any games drop. There's traditionally Sony do promote from within, which is a practice which I quite like. But I think I'm just in the mindset that we need someone to kind of disrupt the apple cart. Could be Don Matrick. That would be hilarious. He's the one responsible for the downfall of Xbox One during that generation. But now, yeah, I mean, there's plenty of people who are capable of running a company, a gaming company. I just want it to be someone who actually plays video games. If I'm honest, I mean, Xbox have it quite good with Phil Spencer. He's a very pro-consumer, consumer firsts, and he's finally delivering on his vision for video games. Yeah, all the best to PlayStation. I'm very curious to see
Yeah,
if how they transition with this new CEO, how if their vision changes. I mean, he's
he could
been
end up even maybe taking it for a little bit.
who?
The interim CEO.
Yeah, I don't. He's a numbers guy. He's like I don't. I'm surely capable. I'm sure he knows the ins and outs, but I don't think he'd be able to make the kind of some kind of decisions that someone who plays video games. I know
How do you know he doesn't play video games?
because he's admitted that he only plays mobile video games.
Hey,
Although,
well,
hey, you're being pedantic, but yeah, I don't want someone who
you are just out here just throwing fire shade on all of the mobile gamers. I
he is
I I
happy.
accept all
Well,
gamers, by the way. I think gamers are.
I don't want to see a future where AAA games are treated like mobile games. Where I was literally playing a mobile game for the first time in months the other day, and
Yeah.
I didn't even level. Oh, what was it? It was a cities building game. I didn't even
Okay.
level up. I was just moving some buildings around, and then an advert played. Literally, an advert was just playing out of
Ah,
nowhere.
yes, yes,
I'm like,
yes,
you've got hold
yes,
on, you've got in-app
yes.
purchases, and you've got random ads playing at any given moment. I'm like, that's not the future I want for AAA. But we've got more to talk about, so we'll move on. You had something that you wanted to talk
Yes,
about.
I actually did. So, which is very kind of related though, because it's talking about again businesses and how they run.
Hmm.
Um, this is related to Twitch. So you don't
Oh
do
yes.
you do you do you do you use Twitch a lot? Not for
Uh,
streaming. I know you don't stream on Twitch, but like,
no, I don't. I don't stream at all. It's something I'll get back into, but no, I primarily use it to catch your streams. Actually, that's pretty much the only reason why I use it.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And I think you are sub to my stream, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. Okay. So I think maybe perhaps given your how you use Twitch and the fact that you sub to to my channel, you've not experienced how it's like as of late in terms of just
Mm.
the ads. Because for me, I use Twitch a lot, not just from streaming, but also watching other people and also trying to find new content creators that I could sort of collab with because I love to do
Yeah.
stuff with other streamers. And usually I go on a channel, I find a channel, and I want to see, okay, what is this person about? Like 30 seconds to sort of get a feel for what the channel is about. And within that 30-second span, in this one instance, I got spammed with about 4 or 5 ads.
Oh yes. Yeah.
It
That is
was,
the reason why I subbed, because we were talking and you were responding to a question, and I
yeah,
didn't get to hear the question because I was listening to like five adverts, and it's absolutely ridiculous.
it is so bad. Especially again, we're trying to sort of even start a conversation with this person and you say, oh, by the way, I asked you a question, but don't answer because I'm currently in ad hell at the moment. So that's literally the term. Like you have people literally saying, hey, I know I asked you a question, but don't answer yet because I'm currently watching an ad. And I, this wasn't a thing. I mean, yes, we had ads on Twitch. It wasn't as rampant as it has been this year. And that's all going back to sort of how Amazon, who are the granddaddies or the daddies of Twitch, are currently positioning Twitch as obviously one of its products, right? And how they are basically saying, "Hey, look, we know Twitch, and I didn't know about this. Twitch makes revenue. I don't know in terms of profits how they make, but in this one article by the New York Post earlier this year, the path to profitability based on how they're looking at Twitch and are positioning it, they are ramping on a shit ton of ads. And even with the whole earlier this year with the whole Twitch revenue split of how much content creators get, where before it was like a certain percentage goes to Twitch and a certain percentage goes to the content creator, they've actually changed that sort of split to have more go to Twitch and less of it go to the actual content creators, which creates an uproar, pitchforks, fire, everything, but that's its own separate topic. But according to that same strategy, ads are now going to be twice, 3 times, even just a lot more rampant on Twitch. And it is really bad. There's actually a Reddit, I think on Twitter, there's a Reddit post about relating to specifically this, and people are giving advice on how you can sort of circumvent it with different browsers that you can use, and those browsers come with certain third-party apps, and it's so bad. It's actually it's actually a whole conversation about this. So I've actually been thinking about just the state of how things are going with Twitch, and of course, given that they are still the number one dominant service when it comes to live streaming, of course, you have Kick that's come out recently, and you have YouTube as well. But when it comes to live stream, we know that Twitch is still spearheading it. It's still the
Yeah.
main big dog in that particular service. But this ad situation, may it is I can't honestly,
No.
I
It,
can't.
it's driven me away from Twitch in terms of um in terms of this podcast, actually, because we had a conversation before we started recording, that where would we want it, what was our plans for it, and I said straight away, like, I don't want it on Twitch, because how are we supposed to, I mean, back then we were playing around with the idea of having it live. How are we
Yeah.
supposed to have a conversation with people if they're watching an ads for like 5 minutes? It's, I know it's not five, I don't know, it's been a long time since I've seen them, but
Sometimes
it's too
actually,
long.
some of those ads actually 3 to 4 minutes, like back to like it's 4 minutes ad, but different products being
Yeah,
advertised to you.
I
So
think
yeah,
they are eroding trust within their community, and they keep doing this. I mean, there's been the whole sexual harassments.
oh yeah,
Um, it's rampant of racism. It's a bit of a shit show, if I'm honest, and I've really pulled away from Twitch because of that specifically.
yeah,
I during the lockdown, I used to spend a lot of time on Twitch. I used to
Everyone
have, I
did.
used to, yeah, and it was great to have conversations with people. Whilst I'm working, I'd have some games on my secondary screen where
Yeah.
they're playing Twitch. Shout out to Inner Punkness. He was there. He streams up quite early for me, and I would just be working and listening and just having a little chat, and it was great, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. But it really messes with the flow, doesn't it? And it
It
makes you
does.
wonder if, I mean, this won't be the last time that they pump up the ads, but it's not the answer, is it? It's
No.
I don't know. Clearly there's a lot of money in adverts, but if you're struggling to pay your bills or to meet the needs of the shareholders because they want their money back, obviously, then they need to make some drastic changes in terms of how they work. I don't have the answers. I don't know who does, but all I know is that I if there's something I don't like, I'll go elsewhere.
True.
YouTube is a great alternative. Heck, Kick, they've got the potential to be quite big and eat their lunch. If you could pin adverts at specific points, if you say, maybe, I don't know, I'm just spitballing here. You're streaming on OBS, you have an alert saying you need an advert in the next 30 seconds. You can prepare for that advert. You can prepare your audience for that advert. Heck, and I was like, I'll see you in 30 seconds. Gotta play this ad. The commenters, they'll understand, ad revenue, we all get paid. But in terms of ad share, in terms of revenue, Twitch gets more and we get
Even the
less. Like,
yeah, even the ad share is honestly, if I had a choice between getting the ad share or not having ads on my channel, I would choose not having ads on my channel because it is so minuscule.
it's
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 not a case
it's
where
detrimental.
it's
It's more
it's
detrimental than it is
literally, yeah.
beneficial.
It's not exactly. It's like, okay, I want to start. Okay, I'm getting, let's say, I don't know, in a month a total of, just modestly speaking, let's just say 50 quid.
Mm,
Even maybe even I wouldn't mind 100. Let's just put it that way. But just saying, between that ballpark, even then it's like you're not even getting close to that. You're getting pennies,
yeah,
literally cents upon pennies upon cents. Like, and it's just so, even if you have pre-roll ads, it's just the frequency, it's just the amount that you get, that it's
mm,
really bad. Like, even sometimes like I said, I'm surfing, I'm trying to I'm at that point I'm thinking I'm just gonna subscribe to this person, even though I don't even know much about what they do, but I want to
yeah,
be able to like connect with them and have a conversation without having all these ads being thrown into my face. I remember one time I found this person, this streamer, and literally within like 30 minutes of being there, I wasn't able to even have a proper conversation with them. And it's not like they're like big streamers, like, they have
mm,
chats, pump messages upon messages,
yeah,
medium size person was keeping up with chats, but I couldn't. And it's so bad, man. And I was thinking, like, from my perspective, if I had someone come in and to just doing the same thing that I'm doing as well, to see, okay, this guy's playing Lies of P, let me see how the game is, and then maybe I want to even ask a question. The moment you ask a question, I mean, sometimes I can see when an ad is coming, sometimes I have it on the side, and I sometimes I don't even mention, like, hey guys, ads about to roll up. I know some streamers do, but the fact that you have to even start doing that is just, it's like, it's crazy. Like, I
mm,
understand, yes, saying, okay, I have scheduled this ad to roll at this time, it's fine, but now it's just a case of you can't even control it because it's just that much more rampant. It's
yeah.
it's it's literally, I don't even know,
It's
man.
disruptive because you don't know that your audience is sitting through a bunch of ads unless they tell you. So you're
Yes.
also sat there wondering why they're not active. Maybe they've gone. Who knows? I mean, I think they would be better off having a subscription service. Like, you pay this much money a month, get rid of all ads across the board.
So they had that. They had, what to call it, was, I think it was Turbo.
Right. Oh, right.
They
Okay.
had, was Turbo, but now that's the thing that, I don't know how it works now at the moment. Because you either sub to the person, or I think Turbo doesn't let you not see. I don't, again, I don't quote me, guys. Again, I'm just from purely from my recollection. But I know that the only option so far that I know that is efficiently working is obviously you sub into the channel,
Yeah.
or you get like an ad blocker, which sometimes can or cannot work. It depends. I had in that same Reddit thread, you have people saying that this program or this sort of third party tool that goes into your
Mm.
browser works for some people, and then for some people they will not have any success with it. So it's like again, and then you have to get this other third party program just to. So yeah, it's
And that's quite scary. Like in terms of it's got to be scary for to Twitch because if they keep pushing their audience like this, they're going to resort to everyone using a specialized ad blocker. Then they won't get any revenue. Then that'll make them, come up with more creative ways of making money, which is
yeah,
detrimental to both them and the audience. So they need to do something, but you can't keep pushing your audience because there's going to come a point where I'm like, enough's enough. For me, that was a while back, and it's going to be very detrimental, but it does leave the door open for platforms like Quick to come in, swoop in, and eat their lunch. And I'm all for that. I'm all for the underdog. Heck, I've been an Xbox fan for during the dark days, and they will try harder. And they will be more pro-consumer. So if I was looking to get back into streaming, it wouldn't be on Twitch. It wouldn't be. I know the platform quite well, and I've made a lot of friends on there. But I don't know. I mean, to me, I would follow what YouTube is doing, but they're also bundling a lot more into their subscription package. So maybe they
yeah.
couldn't do that. They couldn't charge the same amount of money, obviously, because there's less of it. Paying $12.99 for no ads. That's for YouTube has the music and they have other
YouTube movies, all that kind of stuff, and
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So they need to make it more attractive, but 5 ads in a row is not the answer. Heck, it's going to get
It's
worse.
but it's gonna get. I mean, like I said, this entire strategy was laid out in this particular post, which I can't remember now. I actually have it
Mm,
in one of my tabs somewhere, but it was earlier this year that detailed sort of the path to profitability, besides the revenue split of the subscription, but also the doubling down on ads as a way to drive revenue as well. So it's really, again, it's all about, again, okay, like you mentioned, now it's the question of, if not Twitch, well, so yes, Kick is there. Kick has its own issues. Kick is another, has a lot of yeah, it's a baby in a very, very big pond.
it's in its infancy.
Exactly. It has a lot of things, a lot of growing pains. Some people have really bad experience with it. But like with anything, right? Anything that is new, it has a lot of things
Mm,
that they need to work on. And then of course you have YouTube, which already has the established brand name, established platform. But of
yeah,
course, and the live streaming thing is, we're seeing more and more live streams happening on YouTube. So they're only going to get better at it.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
heck, even Twitter's going to be doing live stream for video games, so that's another potential avenue.
That'll be interesting. That'll be very interesting. I know
But
Facebook does that, but I don't know if anyone that uses. I mean,
no,
within my circle, I used to use Facebook anyway. But
I forgot that was a thing. I don't know. Their decision strikes me as a thing that will be very detrimental to the smaller streamers,
yeah,
and it might not affect big streamers that much. Yeah, their money would
no,
go down, but the majority of their money comes from sponsorships anyway, and it's
exactly,
big
exactly.
sponsors don't sponsor the little. Not no, I'm not saying that they don't, but very few of them do. But I mean, we've got to keep an eye on it. If I don't know, I don't know Twitch as well as you do. Are they quite responsive to their audience? Have they made changes based on feedback in the
I mean,
past?
for example, the revenue splits, they did make changes because not primarily of the the other group, the not the 0.01% of streamers that are making shit ton of money, but they've also
Yeah.
had those particular group as well also give feedback like, hey, look, you can't be doing this too.
Mm.
Um, so they have revisited such decisions before, um, but majority is usually when it's that specific group that obviously has a lot more weight, given that they are the ones driving a lot of their
Yeah,
revenue.
so you're relying on the big streamers
You
to
rely on
talk
big
on your
streamers, right?
behalf,
Yeah, exactly,
which
exactly.
has its
And
own problems because I'm sure they're well out of touch with small streamers anyway. Look at Ninja Pokimane. I can't imagine they'd give a shit about the little guy.
Yeah. I mean, they of course they probably have their own challenges, their own issues, but for someone growing a stream and having to deal with this,
Mm,
they don't. They probably wouldn't relate to that. But
mm,
it's definitely something that I don't know if it's going to change. I doubt it. I think it's going to be this way. I don't know if they're gonna make one like you mentioned how YouTube like one again, like I mentioned, Turbo is there, but I don't know how Turbo works now in light of
yeah,
this
description. Yeah.
situation. Yeah. Um, but it'll be interesting to see.
To me, I'm very disappointed. I'm very disappointed because to me the value of Twitch is in the smaller streamers. I don't see any value in watching Pokemon Ninja, who, they have thousands of followers. You can't have a conversation, and that's what I love about the smaller streamers. You can sit there and have a conversation, and it can be about video games, it could be about anything. You get to know them,
Yeah.
and that's what I love about the people who I follow. I'll jump into your stream, and you'll anyone who jumps in, you'll ask how their day went. You'll have a conversation, and you'll get to
Yeah.
know your audience, and that for me is the value in streaming video games. You're not just sat there watching someone play a game. You're sat there interacting with someone who's also playing a game, and you can have these conversations that ebb and flow from about anything, and you
Yeah.
really get to know your audience. I would never go to Pokemon stream. I don't find any value. I don't particularly care about what she's doing. She's a celebrity who's making money based on her name as a ninja. I mean, they're the only two outside of PewDiePie. Outside of those
PewDiePie.
two,
Yeah.
I'm not really big on that side of Twitch. I find the value in the specific people, the smaller streamers, who also share the same interests as I do.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like you said, the ability to be able to converse and on what brought you there, which was maybe you're looking for a specific game, and then you're now able to converse over
Mm,
that particular gameplay experience as well. I think that's absolutely on point. And
yeah,
of course, with bigger streamers, I know there's some big streamers that try, but of course, if you have a viewership of like 1K plus and your chat is literally flying, it's very hard to have any kind of intimate conversations. That's not
yeah,
to say it's a bad thing for them. That's just based on how the channel's grown. And I think that's okay. That's fine.
mm,
Twitch offers a lot of different, if you want to see purely gameplay, that people that don't even say anything, they give you that level of
yeah,
gameplay you watch. And then obviously you go to another channel to have both, maybe more of a chats experience or whatever. Um, but I just think regardless, I think this whole path to profitability through ad revenue, like you said, it hurts majority, like just the normal smaller
yeah.
streamers, because even trying to grow the channel, with each person coming in, they get bombarded with ads. That's one person saying, you know what, I'm good. I'm gonna go just go do
Just
something,
bounce.
and yeah,
Yeah.
just bounce. So yeah,
So it hurts you more than anyone
yeah, I
else.
would I would say so. It definitely does. It definitely
Yeah.
does. I mean, from my experience, going to another channel and trying to do the same thing, but because I understand it, I stuck around. I was like, I
Yeah.
understand this is this is the situation, right? So,
I think they've got it
um,
backwards because right now they are banking on the fact that you would get sick of watching ads, so I'll subscribe. You
I
don't.
mean,
I
yeah,
don't think that works. I think you want to subscribe to support the person. I subscribe to support you and what you do. And there's been people who've been with you since the very beginning, and that's
true.
loyalty. And they may not, anyone who's just coming to the stream may not maintain that subscription if they think that the only reason I'm doing this is just to, you know,
Not
stop
have the
seeing
ads.
ads,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
that's to me that's not a good enough incentive.
I 100% agree with that. For me, it's like, okay, if you're doing this so that I of course I understand, just put it on that hat, and I think that's a great point that you mentioned. Yes,
Mm,
driving more ads will make people push, say, you know what, fuck it, I'm just gonna press this button and give you my 3.99 or whatever. But I don't want that to be the reason why, for me anyway, I don't want that to be the
yeah,
reason why you want to subscribe. Like you said, I think that's a very good point, because you're saying I'm making a decision, conscious decision, to subscribe to you because either I like what you do, or I want to support you, or whatever the reason, not just because of the ads experience is just part of what you get for subscribing, but that isn't the reason why you're subscribing, basically. So I think that's a very good point that you mentioned. I would
yeah,
hate if anyone subscribed to me just because they don't want to see ads. To me, I feel like I've not done a good job of of really sort of making this a good experience for them to say, you know what, I'm gonna stick with you, man. I'm actually gonna support what you're doing because I like what you're doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
Yeah. I mean, they've. I don't know what the perfect model is for Twitch. I don't know. Excuse me. What they can do outside a subscription model, an overall subscription model across the entirety of Twitch.
yeah,
I imagine if they did want to do that and lean into it the way YouTube does, I think that would be the best way to do it. People would, from my perspective, I'd be more encouraged to watch more videos. Like, and that's one thing I noticed with YouTube. I bought YouTube Premium, and prior to that, I'd like, oh, I don't want to watch that video
I
because then
love
I have
YouTube
to watch an
Premium.
ad.
Yeah, yeah,
And I was like, well, and and that's the way it worked for a long time until I subscribed to premium. I was like, oh, I'll just watch that. Oh, well, that looks interesting. I'll watch that. It's only 30, 13 seconds. It's a teaser, whatever. I'll watch that. And I found myself exploring more, and I don't
yeah.
see why that won't work on Twitch. Like if I knew I didn't have to watch an ad, I I, I guarantee that I would be watching more smaller streamers. I'd be watching more content. I'd be like, but as it stands right now, oh, if I go there and I have to watch seven ads, I don't want to do that. Nobody likes ads. People pay to not watch
Not have
ads.
ads.
Heck,
Yes.
I've not watched TV, as in like
That's like
Channel One,
standard channel.
BBC. I don't because of because of adverts. They actually push me away from watching any terrestrial TV because it's too much. I don't want constantly to be upsell, upsell, upsell all the time. It's mind numbing. Life is too short to be sat here watching adverts.
You know, that's such a like just you saying that reminded me of my experience when I went back home for my sister's wedding this year, and we have like satellite TV. So
Hmm.
you have channels on the satellite TV. It's basically like you get more packages or whatever, but it's still cable TV.
Yeah.
And my dad and my mom were watching this program, this Indian TV show, and they were going through it, like the actual episode, and then it cut to an ad break. And my head was like, wait, I can't skip this. Like, we can't. I
Yeah.
sat down there. I was literally sat down there, watched like 5 minutes of random ads, of local ads. And I was like,
Mm.
this is crazy. Like, this is because this, for me, I've, the only time I encounter ads is if I'm looking for an ad. Like I'm trying to remember what this, like someone said, oh, have you checked
Yeah.
out this, like, trailer or whatever. Like I would never sit through an ad because all of my mediums for watching stuff, whether it's Netflix, you don't have ads. YouTube, I have YouTube Premium, and of course with this whole Twitch thing, then that's when I encounter ads. But like in that moment, I was like, oh my god, this is what we used to do back then.
Yeah.
This is what we used to do. I was
Yeah.
like, this is
It's
horrendous. I just sat down there looking at it. But yeah.
it's funny. Like a lot of the older people, the generation before ours, the boomer generation, they are so used to adverts during TV, and this is something that I noticed even growing up. My family would watch EastEnders, Emmerdale, all the
Oh my
soaps,
god,
and
EastEnders.
you get
Jesus Christ.
you know there's gonna be like three, four ads,
Yes.
and that's
Yes.
fine. They expected it. And my grandmother was introduced to YouTube a few years back, and she doesn't skip ads.
Really? So she
No,
sees the button that says skip
no,
ad.
no.
She's like,
Well, that's the issue right there. Her eyesight's poor, so she doesn't see
okay.
it. But I say, is it you can skip the ad, and sometimes she does. But sometimes she'll just like, oh, that's an interesting ad. And this is YouTube, and they have very. I'll give it to them. Some of their adverts are quite creative, but majority of them are absolute rubbish, trying to sell you absolute nonsense. Um, and like they just accept ads, whereas I think our generation, they don't. I mean,
Yeah.
we pay to not get
See ads.
ads. I've
100%.
never looked at an ad and I thought, oh, I want that. I'll buy that. That's never happened.
I actually have. I actually there's some pretty, like you said, there's some pretty interesting ads. I was like, I didn't think about it like before I saw the ad, like about that product. Till I
Hmm.
saw it, I was like, that's cool. And it made me sort of, I didn't maybe go buy it, but it made me research, like actually look into what that product was.
Yeah.
Um I do think like you're right. I'm sorry to cut you off. You're right. Like we do pay for ads.
Hmm.
I just think that there's a good mix. Again, everything is all about
It's a
balance, right?
balance. Yeah.
Yeah. Too much of anything is bad, right? So it's all about a balance. And right now that balance feels absolutely not right.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, right now you can only look at what other companies are doing in terms of ad revenue, and
Mm,
even like when even with Twitch, you'll see like an ad banner pop up. It won't
yeah.
interrupt the video. That's fine. I can live with that. That's a small price to pay.
Mm, mm.
But when I mean, they actually transitioned to having a small preview of the stream at the same time and above the chat, which still doesn't really help if you can't, if you can barely see it, because it's still quite quite
You
small.
can't even hear anything as well. So you can
Yeah,
still see the stream. Like, and I was gonna say that I think that's a very very fair call out. The way they're doing it, yes, there's that compromise of you can still see the stream,
mm.
which is fine. So you're not missing the actual gameplay, but you can't even hear anything. So if it's a conversation, let's say you're in a just chatting stream and an ad popped up where the conversation was really juicy and interesting, all you're gonna see is
Yeah, exactly. No
yeah,
context.
and you're like.
I'm missing
Like,
out. What's so
yeah,
funny?
Mr. Like, and then you come back and you're like, so what you can't do that. So
Yeah.
it's so yeah. So I do yeah. Not just again. I think the point has been made. I just think it needs to be better. It needs to be better.
Yeah. I
You gotta
mean,
find a way.
so what is the short term solution? Have an ad every 10 minutes?
I think
Because they've
because
said they're
if
going to increase the amount of adverts, so we know they are staying. They have to stay.
so
But
they have yeah. So they have said as a new visitor to a stream, you won't get an ad, which is a lie because I've actually had an ad upon joining. So they need to fix that because there's nothing worse than joining to a stream and you're about to say hi. And you're
and
like,
there's an
well, have you
advert.
thought about Geico insurance? I'm like, fuck that. I don't want to see anything about I
Yeah.
want to see about life insurance. Like, don't remind me about my own mortality. I don't want that. I'm here to
Mm.
look at games or chat to someone about something. So yeah, so they need to fix that. So not having ads right off the bat. I think spacing it out a bit more. It needs to be spaced out a bit more and
Mhm.
maybe have bite-sized ads. If you're gonna do, let's say, every 20 minutes, maybe have it in a if you're gonna do more, either you cut it in a way that it's relatively shorter ads,
Yeah.
or if you're gonna do big longer ads, then you space it out way more
Mm.
through the
I think,
stream.
but that introduces another issue of the streamer and how long they
They
want
stream
to
for.
stream.
True. True.
Like, how would Twitch know if they're going to do a
That's a
half
good
hour
point.
stream or a 2 hour stream? I mean, unless they had a responsibility in saying, I don't know, it would be off the back of the streamer to uphold their part and saying, I'm going to do a 2 hour stream.
Wrong. And then
And if I'm going to do a 2 hour stream, I need to have this many ads. I need to be this long. But you could game the system very easily by putting very few ads in there. But and that's if you're leaving the control of the streamer, because everyone knows that everybody hates everybody hates adverts. So why would
yeah.
they?
No,
Why would they give the audience what they don't want?
I
Twitch have backed themselves into a corner by making it so unbelievably bad for the audience, and it's on. And I've seen it in your stream where they're blaming you as if it's your fault, and like
I know it's
you
yeah
have
I
no
know like
control.
yeah I have no control of it like yeah
And you've said it so many times in your stream, like, and I sympathise with you because not everyone understands the how the ad works in Twitch. So of course they'll blame you. So what Twitch needs to do something. What they can do, I don't know. We can only speculate how we would
honestly
approach it.
I don't have an answer for it. I usually not the person to highlight a problem and not have an answer for it. But
Yeah.
I'm not saying that no, maybe Twitch is working in the background because if they say look we're gonna do this but how can we make the experience less like slap in your face,
Hmm.
maybe they have something in the background but right now whatever solutions they have right now isn't working and I
And
think they need to yeah.
what's going to stop them from changing it again in the next 6 months and to be even worse? Because from my experience, it has only gotten worse.
Yeah.
And to me, you've lost the trust of your audience.
Yeah.
If it's so detrimental across the audience, like like I said, like I've got a magnifying glass on Kickner to see how they will approach it because they can swoop in and they could have the best ad model that benefits them and the audience.
Yeah.
Right now, Twitch doesn't have. It's got all the features. They've been around for a very long time. And they've almost pioneered that space. But I mean, what's that Batman quote?
If you live long enough, you end up seeing yourself turning into
If you, I
a
don't, yeah,
villain.
something like
Something
that.
like
Like,
that. Yeah.
yeah, live long enough to see yourself become the villain or whatever. Like, and
Yeah.
that's what Twitch has become. They are becoming the villain in this
Batman. Oh,
scenario.
sorry. I thought you were gonna say Batman. Never mind.
No, I was going to say they're not. They're not Batman. They're not Batman. I mean, it's hard, isn't it? Like, I don't know what I want from Twitch.
Yeah.
Well, I do. I know what I want them to do, but I also know it's very detrimental on them because, like most companies, they staffed up massively during COVID, the lockdown. A lot of companies did. They staffed up, and they thought, "Oh, we're making all this money." But as soon as
True.
everyone came out of lockdown, they wanted
Things
to go outside,
reopened.
and
Yeah.
things went back to normal.
True. Very
And we've
true.
seen it this week, especially because so many companies
In the
they've
tech
made
space, they're laying
massive
off. Yeah.
layoffs. Look
Yeah.
at Epic; they laid off almost 1,000 employees. That's 16% of their workforce.
Yeah.
Give it to them. They gave them 6 months severance and medical, which is extremely generous. And I mentioned Creative Assembly. They've released a few people. Who makes Uncharted?
Naughty Dog.
Naughty Dog. They laid off a few people and they tried to keep it secret. And the list keeps going on and on and on. And all these big companies, like, they saw an opportunity and they invested so much into it, thinking the way it is during lockdown is the
Gonna be
way it's
how it
going to
is.
be. And it's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
That's not the reality. And I think they learnt that the hard way. No. And I think the people who work for these companies have been, they're the ones who have been punished for it, especially for Epic Games when they've put so much money into growing. They're spending more
Yeah.
than they're earning. And if Fortnite is not doing as well for them, well, that's a sign that, not every games as a service will live forever. I mean, it's the same with Apex. That's going down, and they've just increased the amount of Apex coins. So just to bring it in, full circle in terms of our first topic, that games as a service, none of these big money makers will last forever, and it's down to these companies to get a bit more creative. And that's the last thing we want in terms of ads, is to get companies to become more creative in terms of how they push these ads. Heck, I'm seeing adverts on my TV just from navigating the menu. Like, who thought that was a good idea? Next, we'll see adverts on our bloody pianos or on our. I don't even know. I don't want to think. I don't want to put that out there because
You know what? I was just thinking, like, we're slowly getting towards cyberpunk era, where literally, and
yeah,
then we had this conversation. And I don't want to sort of, because we're going on through many, many things right now, but where everything is going to be really about just profit and loss, and everything's being privatized, and everything's all about making money, and you have all these ads in everything, literally everywhere, in random
yeah,
places. So I think that's just sort of, as a whole economy, as a whole, like, you know on a much grander scale, it feels like we're heading more and more towards that, into sort of capitalism,
yeah,
or whatever. But I do agree that companies need to be more creative. I don't think ads is the way to do it if you want to still make money and be relevant and all that kind of stuff. If you do have to do it, then how do you do it in a way that isn't as it is? So that's sort of just the questions I think companies need to really sit down and look at
yeah.
and find answers to, I would say.
Yeah, it's probably a topic we'll be talking about for a long time to come.
Oh
I mean,
yes.
we'll be
Oh
interested to
yes.
see how Twitch react to the feedback of their audience.
Yes, sir.
But let's move on. Yeah, well, let's talk about this week in gaming then. Let's talk about the games that came out this week throughout the years.
Yes.
I'm going to let you start because yours is quite interesting.
What did I pick again?
You
Because
chose.
this week had a bunch of games. I know yours is one of the games that I like. You had Evil Within, you had Evil Within 2, it had MK, it had a lot of games that I've experienced thoroughly. But for me, I picked Biohazard because RE7, to me, I know there's a lot of RE games that are out now, you know, all in their own rights have done great things. Except, I mean, one maybe I think it was Resident Evil 6 was more like actiony Hollywood style. Although that
Yeah,
introduced the co-op element, which was nice.
I
I'm
liked it.
picking Biohazard as the game for this week for me because that game, to this day, to this day, even comparing it to like Outlast, even within Dead Space, all the horror genre games,
Mm.
Biohazard did something that I felt those games, to a certain extent, touched on, but not the full breadth of it. Shooter mechanics, great. Story, amazing. Horror elements. I'm not talking about not only jump scares. Jump scares, yes. But just the psychological elements, the way they made you feel like, are you going crazy? Are you seeing things? Are
Mm.
you perhaps like honestly, I couldn't play like that game. Even after playing it, I had to de-stress. I had to go play Overwatch afterwards because
Is
of
this sorry? Is this Resident Evil 7 Biohazard?
yeah, Biohazard.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Like
Yeah.
it to me, when it comes to a horror game, I put that as the game up there. Like that,
Yeah.
even just not even horror games. I mean, for that particular genre, I put it as top spot. In
Mm.
games in general, I put it also equally high because that game had everything. There was nothing I would even add or take away. It was just great. To me, I'll give that a 10 out of 10. I'll give that a 10 out of 10.
You know what? I think I would too. I think what drew me in is the drastic change from 6 to 7. The
It
first
was
person,
completely different.
the found footage style interactions was a personal highlight for me. How you could get more context from the story by putting a tape in and you experience it through a found footage. That
Yeah.
was magnificent, and it was even to this day one of the scariest video games I've played. It is up there with what's that, Outlast.
Outlast, yeah.
The problem with Outlast is that you get chased a lot. I don't like being chased, and you get chased a lot in Resident Evil 7 as well. And I think the fact that they purposely made you vulnerable in these specific areas, where in other games like Evil Within comes to mind, you're without a weapon and you're
Yeah.
just running away. You're running circles around enemies.
Circles, yeah. Yeah.
In Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, they did it in a way that I don't know what it was. I liked the way they did it because you felt so vulnerable. Maybe it was because it was in first person, and
That's true. Could
I
be.
mean the first half of that game was perfect. It really, really was perfect, and they maintained the survival horror element
Throughout.
of, you've got very limited weapons. The puzzles were fantastic. They were very
Puzzles were good.
creative.
Puzzles was good. I don't like puzzles, but those ones,
Yeah,
I would say they were great. They
I
were
think
great. I mean,
my
puzzle.
personal
Yeah.
go on.
No, I was gonna say puzzle wise, they were great.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
personal highlight was the shadow puppet thing with the
When you have to,
spider.
yeah, yeah,
That
yeah,
was I
yeah.
really did like that. The more I think about it now, the more I think that the first half of the game was perfect. I did think it went a bit downhill towards the end. That turned into more actiony, and I don't think I liked that because it felt so different to the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Now, if we go to Village, now that lent more into action, and I thought that was a perfect video game as well. But I think it all had to do with expectations. It didn't have.
Coming from 7 to Village, yes,
It
I
was
agree.
more actiony,
Yeah,
and
more
people
action, yeah.
favor one or the other. But
True.
I did like how vulnerable you were in, because you were in. I don't know where it was. You're basically out in the sticks, aren't you? This old
Yes.
rundown house,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
it was very reminiscent of the early Resi games in the mansions. You had a lot to explore. There's always something to find. But yeah, that was how. When did that come out?
Uh, 7 years ago,
7 years ago.
or 7 or 6 years ago.
2016.
Yes.
2016.
Yes. Which is
That's
incredible.
crazy. That's crazy. And we've had Resident Evil Village. We've had the remakes of Resident Evil 2,
And 4.
3, and 4 in in that time.
It's a lot of remakes.
Blimey. Yeah, their remakes are catching up with them. I mean, if they're following the same cadence, they're due to remake Resident Evil 5 next, which was one of the weaker Resident Evil games. So, it'd be interesting to see what they do with that.
I
So,
wouldn't mind if they do 6. Wait, was 5 co-op one? Was
Yeah,
it
5 was with Chris and Shiva,
Chris? Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
which
But
we,
yeah,
we, we played a
we
lot of that,
played
didn't
that. We
we?
played that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like I said, five I didn't mind because it brought that co-op element. So from a
yeah.
playthrough experience, I enjoyed it. But
We
I
loved it at the
wouldn't
time,
say
didn't
we
we?
loved it. Yeah, it was fine. Like
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. It was more Hollywood, more like summer blockbuster type of feel.
Mm.
Um.
And it was a
But yeah,
different setting. It was a setting that
different
we
setting.
don't
Different
normally get to
setting.
explore in a video
Yeah,
game.
different
Was that
setting.
your first Resident Evil game?
That one that I played properly, yeah, that was the first one I actually played properly.
Yeah.
It wasn't the first one that I mean I've watched people play other Resident Evil
Mm.
games coming up, but it was the first one that I had,
Yeah.
my own experience with playing. Yeah,
So it's interesting, isn't it? Because mine was 4, and that's my baseline for a perfect, not only a perfect video game, but a perfect Resident Evil game.
yeah,
Whereas if you're coming from, depending, because the franchise has evolved so much, changed so much over the years,
yeah,
depending where you are, where you started, a lot of people really enjoyed the original Resident Evil 2, and I enjoyed the remake of 2. So it's interesting how much it's evolved and how much it probably will evolve. I mean, I'm curious to see what they do with Resident Evil 8, whether they'll lean more into the horror, which I hope they do. I don't want them to have a mix. I want them to just lean fully into it and have it from start to finish. Because that to me was even talking about it now, that is still one of the scariest video games. And I love horror. I absolutely love horror. I love watching streamers stream horror games for their reaction. You're the most reactive person I see on the stream because you will literally fall over.
I don't be doing well
And
with horror. No.
you'll have nightmares. You'll be waking up screaming with cold sweats. And I love the effect that has on people, but I love the effect it has on me as well.
Yeah,
These kind of experiences are the ones that I remember. Like I remember there was a part where you're in the house and you're going downstairs and you're hearing chuckling. Do you remember that in 7? And you can't see what's at the bottom of the stairs. It's pitch black. And I'm like, I don't want to go down there, but I know I have to go down there. And when you go down there, well, it gets interesting, doesn't it? And like those moments, the moments I remember.
yeah,
So yeah, 7 years ago, man. It's hard to believe it was that long ago.
yeah. So that's my game. That's my game that for this week. Give a shout out to.
Yeah, great game. So let's move on to my game. My
Ooh,
game,
what you got?
15 years ago today.
Oh, that's an old boy.
That's a lie. When this airs on the 13th of October, we are recording on the 8th. Dead Space came out for the PS3 and the
Keeping up with the
Xbox
theme of horror.
360.
Keeping up with the theme of horror. Okay.
It is the season of horror.
It is. It is.
And to me, I think this took the Resident Evil formula and they went with it. I forget the name of the studio. I think it was Visceral. Visceral. They went on to make this. They made Dead Space 2, which was perfection. They perfected. It was a great blend of action and horror, and it worked. But what I love about Dead Space, again, the first 15 minutes you're getting chased, and I hate being chased. I really do. But to me, this was the perfect blend of gameplay and horror. Like you would see stuff in your peripheral vision, like, did I just really see that? And you did. It was literally just a necromorph just walking past, stuff like that. You had the plasma cutter to cut off limbs. That was so creative. You couldn't
was.
you couldn't just headshot someone, which was the
Nah.
whole thing of zombies back in Resident Evil. Is you go for the head. Now you slice off their legs, you slow them down, you cut off their arms to stop them swiping, and even down to the music design. It was very reactive depending on what situation you were in, and the fact that it was in space, you weren't being haunted or anything like that. You were being chased by these necromorphs, and it had such a fantastic story. The remake came out last year. Was it last year or was it earlier
Last
this
year.
year?
No, last year.
And that was phenomenal. That to me put EA back in my good graces because that was such a well done remake. They didn't make it 1-to-1, they expanded upon it,
Yeah.
and they did it in such a way that was so faithful to the original game. And like we were not long bashing remasters on the PlayStation side, but these, like Resident Evil 4 got remade, Dead Space got remade, and these are the two games that deserved a remake, if you ask me.
It's been a while.
Exactly, it's been long enough. I mean, 15 years ago, like I can't. How old was I? I was 18,
Yeah.
and I wasn't that big into horror back then. I really wasn't. It wasn't until the Paranormal Activity films came out that I really sunk my teeth into them. Which might have been not long after this came out. I was still in uni. It's my first year of uni, I believe, or at least before. And I think it was one of the catalysts for me that got me into horror, because I'm all about sci-fi. I'm all about
Yeah.
Halos, anything
Yeah.
sci-fi related, and the fact that they delivered on a great gameplay, great story. It was absolutely incredible looking video game for its time. It's obviously not held up, but going back to the remake, that game is absolutely gorgeous. Have you played the Dead Space remake?
I haven't played no, because I played the original one at the time before the remake came out. So I was like, well, I just played that recently, so I don't really want to have to pay for the remake.
No.
But I enjoyed it. I still enjoyed it. I played the OG and it was fine. It was
Yeah.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't until Dead Space 3 that they introduced the co-op, which we went through.
Yes.
And I think it's the same with Resident Evil. Like your first Resident Evil was 5 with the co-op segments, and that when you're playing co-op, it does subtract from the horror element, doesn't it?
You got someone with yeah, it does.
So if EA do continue the trend of making these remakes, Dead Space 2 is definitely a game to look forward to for sure, because that to me, out of 1, 2 and 3, 2 was perfect. 2 was it is up there still to this day, my top 10 video games of all time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that was 15 years ago on the 13th of October 2008.
I
Yeah.
would like to see. I mean, Black Ops would be cool. I actually wouldn't mind that. Black Ops would be cool. I think going through that would be a lot of fun. I would like to see the Prince of Persia games remade.
Or the 3D ones, the
Yes,
OG Xbox.
yes. So the Warrior Within, the I can't remember all of the names now. The
This is a long
three
time ago.
Sounds of Time, all of that
Yeah,
remade.
the
I
Two
think that
Thrones.
would be yeah, Two Thrones. Thank you. That would be oh man, similar to God of War if they remade all of that as well.
Oh yes,
That
absolutely.
would be that would be fantastic. So I would say those two franchises for sure. Just keep my
That
eyes
is a
separate because I yeah yeah
that would be an excellent remake, and one worthy of a remake. And
yes.
I'm probably from the same era, the Soul Reaver franchise, the Legacy of Kain. I would
Mm,
murder for a remake of
mm,
that franchise. I really would.
mm. That's a good one.
So yeah, I mean that was this week in gaming. Absolute baller week in gaming over the
It
years.
was. It was. Yeah. So, moving on to our final piece. We got our Order 66. We got to close it out, obviously, by eliminating one game from the Hall of Games, from the
Yeah.
Fable history of gaming legends. That made sense, right? Just checking. Okay. So, um, as this game goes, Auto 66, we have to pick between one game to survive the Fable Auto 66. If that game gets the Auto 66, they get deleted, never to be seen ever again. That is the end of their history and the legacy that they have brought to the gaming
Mm.
world. So, for today, we got two interesting titans. Diablo.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm nervous.
Diablo, right? We're talking like I'm gonna specifically say we can either do Diablo 2 or Diablo 3. Let's just put Diablo. Diablo versus. So this was a bit tough one.
Mm. Diablo is one of my favorite
Versus
franchises.
Destiny.
Destiny,
Mhm.
dude. Fuck.
By the way, I changed that at the last minute, just so you know.
Did
It
you
wasn't
really? What
Destiny. I did.
What was it before that?
It was gonna be Divinity, but I
Ah,
decided to go with Destiny.
yeah, I would have gone Diablo hands down.
I know. Well, no, this one is different though. What are you going to say, mate?
So
Diablo
it's
versus
it's a good job you
Destiny.
said Diablo and not like specifically Diablo 4.
No. That would have been an easy one. I already know what you'd have said straight away.
Okay, so let's break it down. So Diablo 3 is what stopped me playing the original Destiny. It got me out of that. We put thousands, maybe I'm
We did.
exaggerating, hundreds of hours of Diablo 3, didn't we?
Hundreds, hundreds, hundreds.
And heck, I put it on PC 360, had to rebuy it on Xbox One, I got it on Switch. It's one of my favourite games. Diablo 4 came along. Fantastic storyline, fantastic gameplay, fantastic
Great.
builds.
Great.
And then the end game, games as a service portion kind of
Dead.
dropped off a
Yeah.
cliff and kind of ruined a lot of things. But, you know, saying that, there's hope with the next big update after watching the By the Fire show.
Sure.
So, and then there's Destiny.
Oof.
Destiny I've been playing for about 9 years.
This, by the way, guys, this if it was purely up to Neon Demon Scar, we would probably have a Destiny segment every opportunity we can. Just so you know, the reason why he doesn't do it because he knows that I would probably fight against it. But yes,
Yes, like at one point I wanted to do a Destiny podcast. When we started doing ATF, one of the early episodes, we were talking to someone specifically about the Destiny expansion.
sure.
And I think for me, I'm always the one pushing ATF to do Destiny stuff. We did a live stream for Crota's End, not Crota's End.
Yeah.
What was it? It was King's
It
Fall.
was King's Fall. Yeah.
And Destiny is, we all have that one game. Yours is Overwatch, where we switch off when we want to, and it's just it's my default game. It's my base setting. And you know, I continue to play it because the seasonal stories are phenomenal. Every season, great story. We've
Talking
probably
about
had
D1 and D2, by the way. We're talking about Destiny
so am I.
Okay.
So am I. Like, and that's the reason why I've stayed with Destiny 2. That's why I'll say Destiny 2.
Okay.
It's because of the stories, because of the gameplay. I'm at the point where I'm getting a bit fatigued of the way Bungie has treated Destiny in terms of their their microtransactions, their Eververse store.
Yeah.
It's come at the cost of decent content, and it has subsided as of late.
Yeah.
So each one, like two of my favorite franchises that have gone a bit downhill as of late, for sure. But they still, as a whole, Diablo 3, Diablo 4, Destiny 1, Destiny 2.
You didn't play Diablo 2.
Diablo 3, Diablo 4. I didn't play Diablo 2. That was before. I wasn't into PC gaming when that came out.
Okay. So they said Diablo 2 is the best out of the
I've never
franchise.
played Diablo 2.
Me neither, but that's what people say that
Well, that's
D2
not.
is.
I mean, that's what. Yeah, back then it was a very different game. I looked at I was in the beta for Diablo 2 remaster,
Okay.
and they upped the visuals, but they kept the gameplay and the way it moved the same. It was very faithful to how it used to play, which doesn't really appeal to me in any capacity,
Fair enough.
because
fair
it's
enough.
a very
Okay.
much older game. But it's a story. It's a story that I really liked in Diablo 4.
Okay.
I'm a story man. I love my stories, and I have to
Diablo
get
4
rid
is
of one. I have to cut
Yeah.
one, don't I?
We have to. No, we have to. We have to make a decision together. You know.
Together.
We
I
gotta
keep
do
forgetting
together.
about that part. So
Gotta do together.
you've already cut out Destiny from your life completely, and you come back for the big expansions after I nag you.
It's funny because I'm like this conversation. Although I have made my answer, and it's not what you think it is, or it could be what you think it
Really?
is. Yeah.
Really?
Well, we can talk about it. We can talk about
Okay.
it. We can talk about
Okay.
it.
So if I had to decide right now
Yes.
what game, so how are we doing this? Are we like saying we would purge like the game would shut down, all the games would shut down to this day? We'll still have our fun memories, but we just can't play any Diablo
Yes.
or any Destiny games going forward.
Yes. Yes. You're gone forever.
Okay.
Only- yes.
It really hurts me to say this, but I would.
Oof.
I would cut out Destiny.
Woo! Yo, okay. That is actually surprising because Destiny's a lot for you, man. Like
Yeah,
you love Destiny.
I do.
Damn.
I chose Destiny because of the way it's heading.
Okay.
As I mentioned, Bungie have not been taking care of the Destiny 2 IP. They've moved all their devs over to Marathon, which is a PvP extraction shooter, and I I don't have faith in them anymore. They have transition. They've started doing things they promised they would never do. All these pay to win aspects that have a store. They put more stuff in there than they do in the actual game.
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
received a lot of updates over the past few years. We've got the game is not the same game that came out way back when. It is a much better game. It's in a great place, but it's not a game I could recommend. I struggle to get people to play a 3-man dungeon because getting someone who has it who doesn't play very often up to par. Yes, they've reduced the amount of grind you have to do, but there's still that level of getting decent armor, getting a loadout, getting a build, and I shouldn't
it's a
have
lot.
to.
It's a lot.
I shouldn't have to go through basic training of anyone. Like my uncle, he had a break from Destiny. He came back. The game changed. They introduced loadouts, builds, and I had to explain to him. And I realised I had to do this for a lot of different people who
You did it
ultimately
for
didn't
me.
stick with the game. I did it with you,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking of the people who don't have people like me to guide them through it. I've been subscribed to the Reddit page for such a long time that I keep seeing these posts. This game is not friendly to any new players. It's not. It's a free to play game. They call it a free to play game, but it's not. It's a free to try game. If you're playing without buying anything, the amount of content you have
You are, yes. You
free
are
to
locked off
try is
a
very
lot of
accurate.
content. It's crazy. Yes. Okay. Okay. Primarily, I feel like this decision hinges more on two games between the two. D1 and I think D4, if you take away the end game part of it, I would say D3 in itself is complete. There's
You're
nothing
saying
wrong.
Destiny 1 and Diablo 4.
Sorry, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Destiny 1, Diablo 3. Sorry, they're both D's. Yeah, that's true. So Diablo 3, and for me, I would say my most fond memories of both of those games is Diablo 3
Yeah.
and Destiny 1. If it was hinging on those two games, I would go with keep Destiny 1, honestly, because as much fun as we had, if those were the only two games, Destiny 1 was like from the raids to the
Yeah.
multiplayer to the story. There was like everything was just great. There was nothing. I mean, we had our gripes here and there about certain guns being OP, but that's just how it is, right? The meta of multiplayer, some guns are buffs, blah blah. But like everything in itself, like the game was just sweet. It was
There was
just
nothing like it
great.
at the time, was there?
There's nothing like it at the time. Nothing like it. And Diablo 3 in itself, amazing. That's for me, that was my first well, maybe it was not my first, but like really sinking my teeth into loot crawlers or dungeon crawlers, I should say loot crawlers,
Yeah.
dungeon crawlers, or ARPGs, if you want to call it that way. And it was fantastic. I mean, I still miss my Demon Hunter right now.
Yeah.
So yeah. But I mean, we gotta make a decision together, dude. We gotta make it together. We gotta make it together. So let's just say everything, entirety, right? I mean, Diablo 4, if we look at where it is right now, and then going by what you said, I would feel like Destiny would need to take that Order 66 in the interest of
Yeah, I think because we're both coming at it from different perspectives. I'm coming
yeah,
from it at the state of the game today. You're
right
coming. You're
today,
coming
yeah,
from
sure.
it for your love of Destiny 1.
Yeah, and I think yeah. I gotta go with you, mate. I
Yeah,
gotta go with you. I'll go with you. We
I
gotta
think if we were deciding between Diablo 3 and Destiny 1, I would cut Diablo 3. I think you would too. In terms of Diablo 4 and Destiny 2, I would cut Destiny 2.
that's something
Diablo 4 has more potential right now.
yes.
They've got the full backing of Blizzard, soon to be, under the Microsoft umbrella, there's more potential there. Whereas Destiny 2's dying. I will. Heck, if this actually happens, I can't play the final shape, which is the conclusion to the light and dark saga of Destiny.
Ah,
So that would hurt. But I think as it stands right now, I could. I'm willing to follow your lead if I'm honest, because either way, I'm going to be disappointed.
so the order has been given to delete Destiny from its entirety, from the history of gaming, from the hall of gaming, adventurings, and experience. Be gone with you. And
Rest in
Diablo
peace.
survives. That was a very tricky one. That was a very
That was
tricky
a
one.
tricky one.
Very tricky one.
So
Although we are. I mean, I think what we're gonna do next time is when we say delete, we also delete it from our experience as well. Like we delete what is brought to
just
the gaming
recent,
world,
what
like
is it?
everything. All yeah,
Men in Black and that little thing that
exactly. Like
erases.
we do, like all of that mechanics is brought into just gaming. Like I think that's gonna make it
I
much more
like that
interesting
because
because then it's like yeah, you think about the advancement of games, right, in
yeah,
itself. So we'll do that next time. So yeah, that's it.
yeah. I never expected that because you didn't write it on our show of notes, so I literally had no idea
No,
it was coming. So
no,
good job on
no,
that one.
no, 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 no.
All right then. So I mean that's it. We've had two very very long topics. We've had our week in gaming. We've had our Order 66. We'll
Dessert.
leave it there. I've obviously been your hosts, Neon Demon, and this has been Arrow. And yeah, please like, subscribe. We do appreciate all that good stuff. And we'll catch you next time. Thank you.
Bye, guys.